March, and we are very excited to share plans for 2023 at the end of today's webinar. But you're all here today to learn about how to get the education that you need to mitigate the threats and seize the opportunities created by the energy transition for oil and gas professionals. You'll be hearing from a broad range of programs, all leaders in their fields. Each will last 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll save about half an hour or so at the end for Q&A, including some actual students. At any time, feel free to submit questions using the Q&A feature, and please use the chat box to share comments with the entire group. Lastly, today's recording will be sent via email next week, but it will only be available for 10 days. To kick off the webinar, I would like to put up a poll for the audience. So here comes the poll. And while we get that filled out, I would like to introduce today's moderator for our event. His name is Dwayne Purvis. Dwayne has spent 27 years as a reservoir engineering consultant, advisor, speaker, and teacher on subjects ranging from technical to commercial to strategic. He is the founder and principal consultant of his firm by the same name, but he is also a student working on his own degree in the new world of sustainable energy. So here is Dwayne.
Hey, thank you for that, Leslie. For a lot of people going back to school, going to college, going to grad school immediately after undergrad, it's an easy decision, straightforward. But going back to school, I think, later in life is never an easy decision. I started wrestling with the issues of the energy transition about 5 years ago. First, I came to see the need for the transition, which was not taught to me, not something that was accepted in my industry. But then I came to see the threats, and that made me really uneasy. I eventually came to see the opportunities, and now I have conviction about those opportunities and what they exist, what they are. I now see the energy transition as an interesting problem, one that needs the oil and gas industry, one that can benefit the oil and gas industry. This is a wide open world, wild, wild west, and our skills at wildcatting, entrepreneurship, our technical skills, our assets, all of these feed into the opportunities and make it a great place to be. It was a hard decision for me to go back. I wasn't ready for anyone to grade my papers again as a 50-year-old. But I'm not the oldest person in my program. I'm almost through it, and I can vouch for its value. So I wanted to put this program on to give you the opportunity to learn about what the options are. If you're like me, you're probably in the middle of a process that's slow and difficult. I want to encourage you to keep going along the path, at least to give it an honest hearing. And today you're going to hear 4 really good, really diverse options. I'm proud of the people, the programs that are here today to represent themselves. All of them are a little different, all of them first rate. So let me encourage you to look at to consider questions you want to ask the students or the programs. And let's get started with Dr. Dipankar Ghosh from the University of Oklahoma. So Dr. Ghosh earned his PhD at Penn State, but he's been at OU since they created their energy MBA program in energy. Oh, there's some poll results. I see that, yep, you guys are somewhere along the process, just like I was. There's the OU Energy MBA program is the oldest in the country that I know of, and last time the rankings were made, they came in #1. It's an energy MBA program, so focused broadly on business, but like all the programs here, designed for working professionals. So, Dr. Ghosh, I appreciate you being here. Would you take over, tell us about your program?
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Professor Ghosh from the University of Oklahoma's Price College of Business, and also the Executive Director of the Energy Institute. I'm delighted to be here to discuss our EMB energy program. So what do we do and why EMBA in energy at University of Oklahoma? As the program's architect, I strongly believe this program provides energy professionals with the knowledge and skills to be the next generation leaders and decision makers in the rapidly evolving energy industry. But why EMBA Energy at OU? What's unique about it? Well, OU has a legacy extending over 100 years in energy education and research. However, there are three additional reasons which makes our program truly unique. First, dynamic energy-centric curriculum. What it means, it is an all-energy, only energy curriculum, which is regularly updated. Because of energy transition, recent updates primarily focused on decarbonization and establishing specializations in both renewables and hydrocarbons. Faculty include senior energy professionals and OU professors. In addition to the professors teaching in the program, there are many very senior executives from the energy industry teaching as well. This keeps the materials current and relevant, as well as allowing students to learn directly from industry experts. And lastly, all students in each cohort have significant energy experience and are from different segments of the industry. So as the students go through the program, they learn from each other, which enables them to get a more holistic understanding of the industry, as well as develop an energy-centric professional network. Because of the effectiveness and the quality of this program, we continue to garner recognition and third-party validation. You can see some of the recognitions here. Some program highlights. So it is a 15-month hybrid program. What does it mean? It means that there are 3 in-person modules, 2 of them about a week each on OU's Norman campus, and 1 international module lasting about 10 days. They're currently in Amsterdam and London. In addition, there are 6 online modules, each lasting 8 weeks. Each online course has 1 live session per week. The hybrid nature of the program enables energy professionals anywhere in the world to pursue their full-time job as well as complete this program. As I said earlier on, there are 2 specializations, renewables and hydrocarbons. There's 2 starts per year, 1 in January, 1 in August. Each cohort size is roughly between 20 and 25, give or take. And the program requires an $85,000 investment from you. What does it include? All tuitions and fees, all course materials, required technology, including a Surface tablet, and lodging and most meals during the 3 residency weeks. Curriculum overview. Let's talk about that for a moment. This program combines a rigorous business curriculum. It's an MBA program after all, but with an in-depth immersion in energy. Courses are broadly classified into 7 categories. Please take a moment to go over them. I will briefly elaborate on them in the next couple of slides. So let's start with the first 4 in the next slide. For example, under energy macro perspective, we have courses such as energy and environment, electric power systems, energy resources, and systems. Under business fundamentals, of course, the MBA program, we offer courses such as accounting, several finance clauses, supply chain, etc. To enable decision makers to make appropriate decisions, we offer courses such as quant methods, data analytics, and forecasting. Energy markets and governance include courses such as energy policy and regulations, derivatives and energy trading, and legal. Please note that core courses which all students take are in black. Courses in hydrocarbon specialization are in red, and renewables are in green. The next three categories. So keeping in mind the energy transition, this slide reflects a lot of our current revisions and where we continue to do a lot of work. Under decarbonization, courses offered include electric utility fundamentals, ESG, carbon management, and cybersecurity. The technology and innovation course here is on special topics which changes as needed. Currently, we offer hydrogen, carbon, batteries, and nuclear. Project financing and evaluation is important in any industry, and it is no different in any industry, especially with the recent passage of Inflation Reduction Act. Courses we offer here are valuation of renewable energy projects, valuation of hydrocarbon projects or resources, how to finance hydrocarbon projects, how to write a business plan, and develop, implement, and manage renewable projects. And finally, to develop next generation leaders and decision makers in this rapidly evolving energy industry. The program offers courses such as organizational behavior, strategic management, and the role of leadership in managing change. This program offers additional elements to help augment a student's learning as they go through the program. I want to highlight some of them. Global experience. We all know energy is truly global. As previously mentioned, this residency truly enables students to get an international perspective on energy, as well as how energy transition is being implemented in other places. Executive career coach. Our coach has extensive energy career experience and provides customized leadership and career strategies to each student so you can better leverage your EMBA credentials. Company visits and executive speakers pertaining to energy are self-explanatory. And of course, EMBA in Energy Alumni Network. Students can enhance their network by connecting with nearly 300 of this program's alumni and also become part of global network of OU alumni. Who should attend? The program is designed for those seeking to advance in the global energy business and excel in leadership roles. Applicants should be professionals with a minimum of at least 8 years of experience, and at least 2 of which should be in the energy industry. The next 2 slides provide some information about our students. The current slide gives you an idea of our student body over the last 8 years. Please take a moment to go over them. Please note that 13 years work experience is not the expectation, but the average of what we have seen. I also want to take a moment to talk about our advisory board. It is evolving as we speak. It has, of course, a lot of energy background, very senior energy leaders, and we have people from all over the US, different age category, different ethnicity, and different different genders, of course. So therefore, it is a really multi-purpose, multitasking advisory board. And finally, alumni perspectives. These are just a few of the graduates who experienced career enhancement from completing OU's EMBA program. I'll pause for a moment for you to scan these comments. A big question potential students often ask is, where can this degree take me? The answer, of course, depends a lot on each individual and his or her situation. However, a recent review of our alumni status shows 42% of our alumni are in senior management and above, including 25% in C-suite or other leadership positions. In short, this particular program offers all the tools. It's up to you how you leverage it. Content information and thank you to all. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about OU's EMBA Energy program. If you think this program is something you want to experience, please reach out to Reeve Fidler, our admissions counselor. His email and phone number are provided here. You can also visit our program website by scanning the QR code or using the provided URL. There you can learn more about specific issues like courses, instructors, admissions requirements, alumni, etc. We believe that completing this program is investing in your career, in any career. We want you to be the next student to experience this and would welcome the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you so very much for your time.
Hey, thanks so much, Dr. Ghosh. I'm impressed. And I remember now that you, as you said, are the architect, designed the program and been there the whole time. I especially appreciate how you have adapted and now have a renewables emphasis as well as a hydrocarbon emphasis. I'm sure that wasn't the case 7 years ago,
Correct.
but it is a very, very fast moving field and a very diverse field. In my cohort, I've met people from all over the spectrum. And that, as you said, one of the things that's been very valuable are the people I've met, their expertise, their connections. It's done a lot from my experience. Thank you. So our next program is the UC Denver master's degree, but not MBA, master's degree in global energy management. Sarah Derdowski is their executive director. She's been there since the beginning of the program, been the director now for 3 years. She and the program are especially passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion, both the people and the fuels that we're going to work with in this energy evolution. So their program is not a business degree per se, but a focus on management and on leadership. Sarah, tell us about it.
Sure. Thanks so much. And I'm really delighted to be here with all my colleagues who are spread out all over the world. And I did want to emphasize a little bit what Dwayne said earlier is we're not necessarily competitors, but we do highlight different areas of the energy industry and how we best serve the industry and our students. So really excited to have you all here to see kind of what's the best fit for you, because ultimately that's what's the most important here is you find what's best for you and how you want to make an impact in the world. And so I've had the honor of being executive director of our master's program here for the past 3 years. However, been involved with the program since its inception, which has been a fantastic ride for me since I know every single one of our students and every single one of our alumni. It's just been exciting to see where energy was in 2008 versus where it is now. We'll talk a little bit about that. And so I do also hope you stay online to hear from one of our recent grads and students, Lindsay Schneider. She's also here. She can definitely give you the student perspective. She's just wrapped up this past year and has also made a transition from one side of that energy to another. So hopefully you'll be able to stay and listen to a little bit more from her. So just really to start off who and what we are. So really think of us as a center. So we are the business and leadership side of the energy industry. And so we basically have 3 pillars, which are really important. We have our master's level degree, which is what I'll speak most about today. So that's an MS. We have our graduate energy certificates, which are groupings of our master's classes. And then we have our professional education that serves our folks that maybe don't need to go back and get a full master's right now, or just trying to get updated a little bit on some things that are rapidly changing in the space. And then we have a public education piece. We are a state institution, so it is our job to make sure we're putting out quality information and also inviting debate and discussion around energy issues in a safe place where people feel like they're getting accurate information. So those are kind of our pillars of where we build everything off of. It's also important to note, so everything we do is hybrid virtual. So that piece is important for us to focus on. Like many folks, COVID brought changes. We were already hybrid online, which means we had in-person components as well as online components. But we have definitely done some modifications since COVID, and then also just to stay up with times as to what's happening in higher ed and what's happening in careers and industry. So that piece is pretty critical. So I mentioned kind of a timeline, we started in 2008, and I think that's important to note, where the energy markets were at that point in time, where the energy jobs were. Our students have always been a reflection of that. So it's always been very important that we stay in tune with what the markets are doing. One, so we can provide the skills folks need to kind of transition and into whatever jobs are there, whether they're more in our fossil heavy group or if they're more in our renewables and electrification piece. So I thought it might be useful just to put that out on a timeline a little bit too. You can see how we've evolved over the years as well. And we are continuing to evolve. We have big announcements coming out soon that will be part of a JP Morgan Center for Commodities and Energy Management. And that piece is critical because it's where we've seen some of our students and our companies looking to put students. So a little bit about basically why we're different. You're here to compare all these different types of programs. I think it's important for us to kind of lay out who we are, but then also where we're different. So we've always been an all energy program, and that's been pretty critical from the start. We were started with a group of industry who came to CU and said, hey, we're noticing big crew change. I think everyone remembers that back in 07, 08, people talking about really looking at succession planning and how to do that better. And they also came to the table saying, we don't want to just do this for our company or just our tiny piece of the industry. They were very forward thinking, and they wanted to make sure that they were creating leaders in the energy space, not just in oil and gas, but also in kind of whatever that future looked like, utilities, renewables, even in some of that policy and legal space as legislators look to kind of better understand what's going on and what direction the world was headed. That Industry Advisory Council started our program essentially in partnership with CU. So we've always had this very tight business connection, and that's only continued to grow. So it went from a more localized, very Colorado-centric space to moving into more global very quickly. So that's also made us look to how we recruit our students, what sorts of topics we have, making sure that we are covering certainly what's happening in the US and North America, but also making sure we have that global lens in every single class that we have. That being said, that also means we had to look elsewhere for some of our faculty. So none of our faculty are currently CU faculty. They are experts in the industry and field. Some of them work at other universities, coming in from University of Calgary. We have folks from DC, Texas, California, spread throughout the world. And that piece is really critical too, to making sure we're bringing the right perspectives within the classroom, but making sure that it's also very quality and academic as well, making sure that theory is there as well as that practitioner piece, which means case studies and things like that in the class, as well as experiential learning. The other piece is that there's no way to take our program faster than it is. So if you're applying to our master's level program, you can take 2 classes at a time on a quarter system, because that is the only way you're going to be successful. If you try to take more, you're not going to be successful, and you're not going to get everything out of the program. And so that piece is really important as well. If it's something you're looking for a full-time program where you're not going to be working, that's not going to be the best fit for us. It's really important that you're working. You can bring those problems you're having in class into the classroom, have your fellow students help you go through those, and your faculty to work through them as well. I mentioned our industry partners. That is important. We also have an executive in residence program where we're bringing in executives from all over the world in a variety of different sectors, startups, venture, oil and gas, wind, just so much is happening, you all know. So we try to rotate that as much as possible. They're with us for 6 months. They're active in your classes, they're active as keynotes. There's group and individual luncheons, as well as virtual appointments as well. Again, our student base is virtual, and I'll talk more about that. Or not virtual, is global, and so it's important that we have access to our folks at all time. The other stat that's important to mention that we're proud of is that all of our students are working professionals. So it is hard to measure whether or not, where we're making that impact for them, right? But everyone's going back to school for a reason, like Dwayne said. Our students, variety of ages, but it just depends. And so our measurement of success is 55% of our students have seen career advancement within less than 6 months of graduating from us. So that's the stat we look at. We don't track after 6 months, so maybe it's higher, but that's the best we can do with over 500 plus graduates at just the graduate level alone, much less our professional ed classes, which have much higher rates of return. Kind of next, to speak to our curriculum a little bit so you better understand, and this is going to be predominantly just our graduate level, so you better understand who we are. I do have a full list of classes if you want to look at those. It takes 12 classes to complete the master's, and we have a variety of those, but I didn't want to list them all out here for you, so I want to talk about them in high level, and please check them out. I have a link in here as well as on the website if you want to take a peek at exactly what all those classes are called and what those descriptions are. But essentially, we want to make sure you're getting the skills that you need to do that. So what do you need? Are they financial skills? We give you some of those to making sure you can better value assets. I think that's important. Also compare technologies and compare types of energy fuels. That's something critical that you might not get in an MBA, but you would get an MS because we're very focused on that. And so you will take a technical aspects of energy science class for us. I joked earlier that my engineers love it. They see a thermodynamics book, they get thrilled. It's a language they understand. But then my financial folks or my policy people get very uncomfortable, but they get to know their engineering classmates really well. So that piece is Always nice. And then you'll learn quantitative skills as well. Quantitative business analysis. It's really important. We talk about project development, renewable projects. You need to have these skills that take your next step, regardless if you're in energy or any part of business. And we also talk about regulatory issues. As you know, in energy, it's a lot. Regulations are constantly changing. And I always say we're lucky enough to be in a state like Colorado, where everything is debated all the time. We're a very purple state politically. That's also great for us. We have a lot of lessons learned, a lot of debate. And then that brings also into our classroom the culture of who and what we are and how we operate. So lots of different ways we try to give you the full perspective of energy and how leading in that space is complex. And then kind of talking a little bit more. So we do list some of our classes in here, so you have a better understanding of kind of the breakdown of buckets of classes and things that we offer. ESG is obviously a big class, and we've also just added one that starts in April on a carbon markets. So really kind of talking about and differentiating between carbon credits, carbon offsets, what these markets look like, the voluntary and involuntary, what that's going to mean for your reporting. And it's critical. A lot of our CEOs are asking for this. So we know it's going to be a critical skill for some of our students coming out the door. So our coursework, like many of these, is very current and very relevant. And I'd like to just pause there for a second, because we are in it with our students from the time they come in and register to the time they become alumni, and hopefully for the rest of their lives. And I say that because energy is changing so quickly, technology-wise, regulation, we see that every day. And so we have a promise to our students. Any alumni who finishes our graduate program can come back and sit on any of our classes for free for the duration of their career in life. And that piece is really important, because if we give you something and it's current and relevant now, and then you go on off into your career, you need to stay updated constantly. And so, yes, we have our professional ed to help on other specifics, but also we modify and change our classes every year as regulation, as policy changes, as rules roll down, as new technologies, come out. We talk about fusion coming out, and what does that mean, and how's that going to affect markets? And so we often add new classes, and so that piece is pretty important there, and just a promise we make to our students to making sure, one, we're staying on top of what we need to, and two, that our students are always going to be up to date on what's happening. And finally, we have broken out our grad degree, because it is challenging to think about to go back to school. I know that I have 2 young children at home, 2 and 4, to think about going back to school. I don't know where I would get the time, but you need it. And so we've taken these pieces down. We've listened to our students. We did a big listening tour right before COVID, and then through COVID, and said, what are those pieces that people want the most, or those skills that industry is demanding the most? And we've created these kind of clusters. And so we call them pathways on the graduate school. So these are 3 classes of our graduate pieces, really kind of bundled together to provide students those very targeted skill sets that they're looking for. And the other piece I want to make sure I mention is we do a lot of group work, and that piece is really critical, because as much as we have cohorts, you can start really every quarter. We try to keep people together for as long as possible. So if you're doing leading an energy transition pathway, that you're with those folks for all those classes. So you really kind of build that network out, because energy is a small space, and when you break down to even the sectors, it gets even smaller. So trying to help people build their network as much as possible. I mentioned we have kind of 2 other options. So professional education, this is really that micro-credentialing that we've done. These are really 4-week, fully virtual classes, some live sessions, as well as pre-recorded pieces. And then there's office hours and credentialing. And so we've really kind of focused in on these 4, but we'll be adding a few more on renewables as well. Masterclass in trading and hedging, energy, commodity analytics for analysts, our life cycle for oil and natural gas, and sustainable commodities production and markets class. So these are just ones that we offer at that professional level, 4 weeks, again, for folks who just need a little tweak or want to better understand what that looks like. They've been really well received, and we really enjoyed meeting all these students. We've over 2,000 folks have come through these, and it's been really exciting to see these grow. And then finally, public education. You'll see us out there trying to educate the public on a variety of topics. We do a lot. We even have some free courses, MOOCs on Coursera. Again, however we can get good energy information out there, we'll do that. These are just a couple highlights, just recent ones that we've done. And then finally, I really want to speak to the student experience. I think that's a lot of the questions that folks will have. And so really the breakdown of how it works. So our classes are virtual, which means there are live sessions and there are online sessions that are asynchronous. So they're 10 weeks in length, so it's not too challenging. And so the live lectures are generally the first few days of a week when we get started with the quarter, and then they're kind of threaded throughout the 10 weeks. So generally there might be 5 live lectures. You'll need to attend 3 of those live. The others would be recorded the rest of the time. There's group work, as you can see. There's individual assignments, because again, it just depends on how you learn as well. And the way we try to say to think of it is it's about 5 to 10 hours per week per course. So if you're trying to allot your time and thinking about, is this possible, doable for me? Can I take 1 class at a time, 10 hours, 5 to 10 hours? And it depends on your background and it depends on the topic of the class, how long that would take. The group work is also excellent, and faculty do always have office hours available. And that means for our students who are international as well. I have folks working off of rigs off of Oman who might just have different schedules, when they can actually participate in class, and we understand that, and so we are flexible with that. Our student profile, our average age is 34, so people are coming in when life is happening. We're talking about having kids, we're talking about moving cross country, changing jobs, all of the things, and so really we help them get through that. And then finally, so probably coming up in time, which is why Dwayne appeared on the screen, is that our in-person component is called a summit. So our summits are really 2 days that we are in person, which is important to get to know each other, our faculty and everyone. And so those are hosted twice a year. You only have to come to 2. And it's an 18-month program, so it kind of depends. And this year, our 2 topics are collaborative leadership and civil discourse. So those are our 2 topics that we'll be hosting this year. It's not classwork, but it is complementary, and these portions are mandatory, but you have a choice into how you want to do that. And so really that's the summit and our graduate programs. I have some profiles if you'd like to look through those. Some wonderful students of the past, Claire, there's Ryan. And there's Garrett. We have many, many more. If you'd like to take a peek, they really are the shining stars. They've gone off to do incredible things and just could not be prouder of where they are and how we can continue to help them grow.
But also very, very proud of Lindsay. Also very, very proud of Lindsay, who's here.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, she knows I am. I would have put a quote up there if it wouldn't have been too much.
Okay. Go ahead, wrap up there.
And just really appreciative of everyone. If you have any questions, or if any of this speaks to you, we'd love to chat more with you. Again, we look for things that are good fits, and that piece is really important. We steer folks away if this is not the right fit for you. And ultimately, if you're looking to make a difference or an impact, again, business and leadership side of the energy industry, a lot of our students have technical backgrounds and need this to kind of move up into upper management. And it's 18 months, so it's not too harsh, but at the same time, it's still graduate level work. And I know that feels daunting sometimes as well. So anyways, we're happy to help. Feel free to reach out to myself or my colleague, Kathy Stepik. She's also been in the program for years and years. And so we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for that, Sarah. There is so much good material to talk about. I love especially what you said about the industry moving so quickly. I had no idea how broad the subjects were and how mature the subjects were before I started my degree program. And I've come to realize now that anything I thought I knew 5 years ago is almost certainly wrong.
Sure.
Not less because I was insulated, but also because it's moving that fast.
Yes.
But I appreciate you being here. It sounds like a great program. Now we're gonna go next to Lindsay Ryan, who's gamely stepped in when someone dropped the hot potato for her. But Lindsay is working with Johns Hopkins University, which of course is one of the top universities in the country, and their Master of Arts program in Sustainable Energy. So the first was an MBA, second Energy Management, Energy Leadership. This program is inside the School of Advanced International Studies, which is their international policy diplomacy school. It's literally blocks from both the White House and the Capitol. Very large, well-respected institution. And this program is more focused on policy. Now, for some of us, it actually resembles a lot the strategic questions I think that we deal with in oil and gas. Where are we going? How are we going to get there? And Lindsay's been involved with the program on a hands-on basis, day-to-day, dealing with the execution and the student experience. Lindsay, tell us about it.
Hi, well, thank you, Dwayne, and thank you to everyone for attending. As Dwayne said, my name is Lindsay. I'm the manager of online student experience and enrollment for the online programs of Johns Hopkins University's School of Advanced International Studies. And one of our programs is the Master of Arts in Sustainable Energy. And I am just going to bring this up really quick. And we are relatively a new program. We just started in 2020. That was our first cohort, and they are now alumni. We just welcomed our first class of alumni this past May. And we are now on our fourth cohort. So we're chugging right along. As Dwayne mentioned, you know, the material in this industry is just always changing and evolving. And with being a young program, we wanted to emphasize new material, the latest data. So hopefully that is what we will be discussing and delivering today. So a little bit about SICE and Johns Hopkins. So we are, just this past year, we have been listed as number 70 for national, or 7, not 70, for national universities, number 10 for best global universities, and number 3 for best schools for international relations master's programs in Foreign Policy magazine. We really feel that it's important to connect you with field experts. That is something that SICE is known for, and we wanted to carry that through to the Sustainable Energy program. We wanted to provide you with career and internship opportunities. Although this is an online program, we are based in DC, as Dwayne said, right across the street from the Capitol building. And we deal closely with different agencies and different departments of the administration. And that information is downloaded into the program. And we will talk about some of our expert faculty. Here are just a few of our profiles. Not only, when we were designing the program, we not only wanted tenured faculty, such as John Banks there in the middle. He is who teaches our introductory course. And we actually brought him over from SICE courses and SICE programs. He is one of the facilitators of the program. This is one of his babies. He loves it. He really loves ushering new generations of students interested in this field. Jonas Nam is someone who is published regularly. And we also have field experts teaching courses such as faculty who actually work for the World Bank and things like that. So you are immediately and consistently exposed to subject matter experts. Within SICE, we want to highlight our career services. Not only are you exposed to experts in the field who are established in their careers through the faculty, but we provide hands-on coaching and mentoring through the student services. And if you are looking to get into the energy field, there are numerous opportunities for you. Academic support opportunities within SICE, academic advising, that's namely me within this program. We also provide other support, as you see, such as the co-curricular and experiential learning, and Handshape, which is where you will find most of the career opportunities that I mentioned. So we are a virtual online program, and the way that that works is that we have courses that run 8 weeks long. Most of the work is asynchronous. We do offer weekly live synchronous sessions with the faculty. And what's really interesting that I've seen through this program is that the faculty really take ownership of that live session and curate it to however they feel is best delivered. Some bring guest speakers through their connections, so you're exposed more to subject matter experts. Some curate it to be a discussion time with current events, and you can hear what's going on in the big picture of current events through sustainable energy. And of course, online course support. Myself and my team, we have really, as Dwayne mentioned, built up this program to meet students' needs. As a young program, we try to take feedback and develop changes in real time. So we're constantly growing, constantly developing. And here is a profile of our program. We accept applicants who are all the way from undergrad, just graduating, to career professionals. You can see at the bottom there that the average years of experience is about 11 years. We have an average GPA of 3.58. And you can see sort of the backgrounds that our students are coming from, everything from international trade to the military to real estate. I know one student who is a fashion designer, and she really wanted to know more about how her industry can become more sustainable and more invested in renewable products. And someone from that background and all the way to oil and gas, such as Dwayne. So let's get into the program itself. So with the program, it's cohort-based and delivered online. What this cohort structure means is that you start with a group of students and you end with a group of students. And we have really found that beneficial to networking and to giving each other support. I've found, and my current student who is with me today, Eric Zito, can talk a little bit more about his experience with this. But being in a cohort has really provided a great opportunity for each other to find support and even networking. And it's been a really satisfactory experience for myself as well, because I get to know you guys from start to finish, and it's really nice to see them develop together. So the program going on, it has 10 courses, 40 credit hours total, and they start from the fall and they're back to back, giving a break each term. 40 credit hours, they're 4 credits each. And what this means is that it is reading intensive and going into group projects a lot. So you may find that you'll be spending about 20 hours a week on each course, but this is only one course at a time, and it really dives deep into the material. So I find that it is beneficial to do it that way. And here you'll see that it's designed to fill key skill gaps across the energy sector and prepares graduates to lead clean energy research, policy, and development initiatives. And on the right here, you'll see sort of a summary from our professor, John Banks, who I mentioned before. And the main area of study during the program that you'll touch upon, as Dwayne mentioned, it is very policy driven. So you'll touch upon energy and environmental policy, advances and challenges in sustainable energy, international sustainable energy governance, and economics and finance. We really like to get into the financial aspect of trying to implement some of these changes. So here is the actual curriculum. In block 1, you'll see they are 8 weeks long, and you get into sort of an introductory period during the first term. We try to lay the groundwork, lay the foundation for you. In block 2, you'll see that it goes a little more in depth into current affairs with climate change and global governance. We get into economics, and we dive a little deeper into the actual renewable energy field. And you'll also see, I'll go back just for a second, maybe I can't, but you'll see the residency. The first residency is at the end of the second block, which happens during the summer. And the residencies are on site in Washington, DC. There are 2 residencies, and we'll discuss that a little bit more in a minute. And at the end of block 4 is when you culminate the capstone project. You will be working on the capstone the entire second half of the program, but then you are dedicated some time to complete it, and you have check-ins with the program director. There are a couple group sessions for the capstone, so it's really a collaborative process. And then at the end, during the second residency, is when you'll be presenting the capstone. And here on the left, you'll have a quote, a bit of a summary from the program director, Dr. Johannes Erpelainen. He, along with our executive director, is who really pushed for this degree. He is kind of the brains behind the operation, if you will. He really is passionate about this field. He has connected with students, and I think Eric will be able to tell you a little bit more about your connection with Dr. Erpelainen during the program. So here you'll see delivered online, and we really try to accommodate the career professional. It was really made with that demographic in mind. We have both asynchronous and synchronous components, and it's all on Zoom when you do attend. So here is a little more about the residencies. There are 2 on-site residencies happening in DC. The first one is 1 week long during the summer, and the second one is a 3-day capstone residency right before graduation. That happens in May. And the second one is really dedicated to presenting your capstone. The first residency is really to help you connect with your cohort and kind of drive the next half of the program to whittle down your capstone project, meet field experts. It's really sort of a networking opportunity for everyone. And the admissions process. So Johns Hopkins really takes a holistic approach when reviewing applicants. We have no minimum GPA required. We offer a little bit of micro courses in economics if you don't have a background in that, so that is not a deterrent for us. And we also have an application fee, as you will see, and we do require a statement of purpose and an analytical essay. And this is really where we figure out, your passion for sustainable energy. As I said, we have 1 student who comes from the fashion industry. So really, if you're passionate about the field, if you're looking to get your foot in the door, we really make that happen for you. And then anyone who is admitted, we do offer other live events such as the faculty roundtable and a new student meetup, trying to get that networking right from the bat. And I believe there will be Q&A at the end. So I will give it back to Dwayne.
Hey, what great timing, Lindsay. Thank you for that. The cohorts are, again, are really interesting because people really can come from everywhere. In my cohort, we span oil and gas to environmental activism. Our last program is U of H, and Dr. Alan Rossiter is going to talk about that. Now, he earned his PhD at Cambridge University. Not like me, I went to Oxford on the Brazos. But he's spent 25 plus years in industry, and he literally wrote the book on energy efficiency for process engineering, which in my limited experience is a really great opportunity. But at this point, Dr. Rossiter is in charge of external relations for U of H, and U of H has a broad spectrum of programs. What he's going to talk about now, though, is micro-credentials, smaller, bite-sized coursework where you can get some real deep knowledge on a narrow subject that has more direct application to your career. Dr. Rossiter, please take it away.
Thanks so much, Dwayne. So let's get this shared for you here. Okay, so thanks again. And so, yes, I'm going to be focusing, as Dwayne said, on micro-credentials, micro-credential programs. So just to put in perspective, University of Houston itself is a tier 1 public research university. And of course, it has a huge range of resources associated with that, about 47,000 students and a lot of full credit programs, obviously bachelor's, master's, PhDs, including master's degree in our Global Energy Management Institute. Actually, it's the Gutierrez Energy Management Institute, changed its name, but it is a Global Energy Management Institute. However, the organization that I'm actually within the University of Houston is called UH Energy. And as the name implies, it's very much an energy-focused entity. It's not a conventional college within the university. It's really an umbrella for the university's strategic partnership with the energy industry. The University of Houston is the energy university in the energy capital of the world, Houston, of course. So we have a very focused section within our university that focuses on the energy industry, but that crosses a wide range of disciplines within the university. The obvious ones, obviously engineering, sciences, the business school, but also law, public policy, and even the liberal arts have some elements in them that are related to the energy industry. And what I'm going to focus on, as I said, is our micro-credential programs within UH Energy that are very much targeted on energy transition topics. So let's get into that. A couple of pieces of data. First of all, back in 2020, 107,000 oil and gas layoffs between March and August. And then stepping forward now to a recent report from McKinsey last year now, 188 direct or indirect induced jobs available in Texas by 2050 because of hydrogen, new opportunities in hydrogen. So what do we infer from that? Well, there's an opportunity for existing workforce participants to enter the hydrogen sector. Many people got laid off because of problems in the oil and gas sector, but there's an opportunity to pivot. And the key thing here then is that some skills are transferable. But if you're wanting to make that pivot, then you also need to develop some new skills. And so we need to reskill or upskill. But how do we do that? And this is where I want to talk a little bit about micro-credentials. One of the earlier speakers also talked a bit about this. So micro-credentials, as the name implies, they're relatively small increments, but they're certifications of mastery for specific topic areas or skill sets. And so to earn a micro-credential, you need to complete a certain number of activities, assessments, or projects related to that topic. And digital badges are closely related to micro-credentials. They're basically a validated indicator of accomplishment of skills that can be earned in various learning environments. And they basically are now accepted quite widely as a digital transcript, basically, that demonstrates that you've achieved your competency in a micro-credential program. And because they're digital, they can be linked to digital platforms like LinkedIn. And so that obviously is a very valuable opportunity in the current labor market. Micro-credentials have been around for a while, roughly 10 years, especially in IT areas. And IBM actually was one of the key players in starting this trend towards micro-credentials. They're short modules for targeted training needs and tests to demonstrate mastery of new skills. And basically, after you complete your training program and successfully go through a testing process, then you'll receive your digital badge, which you can then display effectively on these other platforms that we mentioned. And they're used by many companies, colleges, and universities as a way of training people to address specific skill areas or to learn new skills to augment your existing job. So turning specifically to what we've been doing with micro-credentials at UH Energy, starting back in 2020, this particular program started, we have a range of different micro-credential programs related to energy transition topics. So the first couple that we launched really were the Sustainable Energy Development Program, and about the same time, we also launched our first data analytics program for, first of all, actually for the upstream energy industry, and then later on for the downstream energy industry. And we also have a program in ESG. One of the earlier presenters talked about ESG, environment, sustainability, and governance in energy. And the one that I've been most directly involved in is the hydrogen economy program, which obviously is another very important aspect of the energy transition. And the way we structure these courses is in small increments, as I mentioned earlier. Most of our programs consist of a series of badges, and one badge is essentially equivalent to about 15 contact hours. And I'm here saying contact hours, not semester hours, because I know some of the other speakers have talked about semester hours. So these are relatively short increments. And within that period of 15 hours, you get some content and some skills that you're learning. And most of the programs that we have are structured as 3 badges, which we then call a belt. Completing all 3 badges will give you a belt. And on the screen, you're seeing some examples of both badges and belts, the digital format that we use for the credentialing. So they're stackable. The different badges stack together. We've also had some programs that can stack one with another to give you a larger credential. And we co-teach with academic faculty and also industry SMEs. And we use real-world problems in the process with rigorous evaluations. And a key thing here is that the programs are very much interdisciplinary. The delivery modes, virtual, hybrid, and in-person, we've used all of them for different programs, so varying on the specific needs. And just thinking about the interdisciplinary aspect of these programs, it depends who you talk to when you talk about energy transition. Man, it's all about climate change. Therefore, we must be driving towards energy transition to deal with that problem. But then again, actually, it's all about politics, right? So one of the first things that President Biden did when he came into office was to call a virtual climate summit for world leaders. Of course, this was during the pandemic. It had to be virtual. And so all of the usual suspects were there. We have Xi Jinping from China, Vladimir Putin looking very dubious there, and Boris Johnson with his bad hair day, which is every day for him, I guess. And a lot of other world leaders were involved in that. And I find the comment on the right-hand side of the screen there from Boris Johnson quite interesting. Tackling climate change is about growth and jobs, he says, not expensive bunny hugging. Well, it's an interesting comment because growth and jobs are very political. They're also actually very economic. They're also very much about the way people live. We need growth and we need jobs. And so there's a lot of interest from the political side and from the business side in energy transition. So it's really all about business. And I find the quote here also quite fascinating. It comes from Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, which has somewhere in the order of $10 trillion of assets under management. The numbers here on the screen are a year or so out of date. But he makes this comment in his 2020 letter to CEOs. Every company and every industry will be transformed by the transition to a net zero world. The question is, will you lead or will you be led? Then again, it's all about technology. So is it wind farms or solar energy we're interested in, or biomass, biofuels? Are we interested in recovering carbon dioxide from the atmosphere? And then again, on the right-hand side of the bottom here, we have a hydrogen dispenser for hydrogen-fueled vehicles in California. So it's all about transportation. It's all about technology in this field as well. So we see here then that the energy transition, by definition, really is interdisciplinary. But the truth is, the case for hydrogen in particular is all about chemistry. And of course, I'm contractually required to say this as a chemical engineer. I'm obligated to tell you that it is all about chemistry. But actually, that is true, in one sense at least, because when you burn hydrogen, you don't make any carbon dioxide. So in that sense, hydrogen is the ultimate form of decarbonization. Problem is, it's never quite that simple. And the truth is that all perspectives, whether you're looking at this from a political standpoint, a policy standpoint, a business standpoint, a technology standpoint, or if you're just a chemist or chemical engineer, you have a perspective that has some validity. But in order to really understand the renewable energy picture, you need to understand all the energy transition picture. You really need to look at it from an interdisciplinary standpoint. And all of the classes that we're running within this area are interdisciplinary, and they all have this combination of academic rigor and the real-time interaction of industry experts as well, including some very senior people in industry who've been participating in our programs.
Doctor, I really hate to cut you off.
I know this is the last slide, so just giving you some number of this is the cohorts completed. You're seeing the badges delivered, belts delivered, completion rate, and basically we're looking here to give people this opportunity to make the pivot into the renewable energy space. And there's my contact information. All
right, thank you very much for that. Would you post that information also in the chat? Doctor, there's several things you said there that I really appreciated and liked, but I'm going to springboard off one of them. If all the panelists would jump on. You said it's not about bunny hugging. The quote from Boris Johnson is obviously a very colorful character. It was not about bunny hugging. And the Larry Fink, absolutely everything is going to change. Sadly, energy and the energy transition have become more of a hot button issue, more of a political issue. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to some friends in the oil and gas business, and the guy wanted to know why my professors were so adamantly opposed to nuclear power, which was fascinating because I said nothing about the position of my professors on nuclear power. But his assumption was, because I'm in a program that's not about oil and gas, that they were a biased, liberal, warpath kind of folks. And what I've found is that there's a misperception. There's actually bias against higher education. So for those programs to begin with, tell me, what is your thought on the bias that may or may not be in your program, or the emphasis, and whether or not higher ed deserves a bad rap?
Certainly with ours, we are open to all different scenarios, and obviously there are a lot of different perspectives. A lot of them are based on political biases or business focus. So if you're a company that specializes in nuclear, you'll probably focus on nuclear as an option, right? But the reality is there is no single option. And actually, I'm convinced there is no good option in truth in this space. They all have major problems. But I think a lot of one of the difficulties is we have people coming from different perspectives, coming with a different type of investment in a particular sector, and they will focus on their biases for the most part.
Any of the other programs want to comment on that?
So we do cover nuclear in part of this decarbonization. In the US, nuclear is still a long process to get it approved. The regulatory process is quite long. It's a huge investment, and it is a lot of uncertainty in it. You see that in Europe. So, but it's important to have a working knowledge. So when we visit Netherlands, we actually have a session on nuclear energy, actually visit a site on nuclear disposal. So it's again, we do get into it, but it's one of those things that is bimodal. People who are below 48 have no problem with nuclear. Who are above 48 have a huge problem with nuclear. And that's not me talking. It is a survey done over 6 months.
Oh, I can agree with that. I've seen the same thing, Dr. Ghosh. But I appreciate it. In my experience, academia is not biased. Academia is broad pictured, circumspect. And like Dr. Rosser said, there are some things with advantages and everything has some disadvantages. And I think that reflects in the way the course programs are designed. So let me switch to a question for the students that are here. We've got Lindsay Schneider from the CU, Colorado University in Denver, Eric Zito from Johns Hopkins, and Josie, whose name I forgot, I'm sorry. Thank you, Josie, from University of Houston. Tell me, we actually had a lot of people, not all three of you guys are from here in the US, but we've had a lot of people register for the event from international locations, Qatar, India, Oman. Tell me your cohort, how international are your cohorts, and how valuable is your experience working with the other people in your cohorts? Josie, you want to go first? Oh, sorry.
Sure, I'll start here. So, I think that what was really interesting is that we had our professors that were part of what Alan was talking about regarding hydrogen. I also took the CCUS class equivalent. It was very broad. So there were professors from all over, and I think that was really unique because we got some really great information about how hydrogen is being applied in Europe, and other places globally. So I thought that was really important for. Just for perspective, I'm in the pipeline sector, so for oil and gas, and we're expanding big time into hydrogen, as Alan mentioned, in here in Texas and other places, as well as CO2. And so understanding where the global networks are so that we can start researching and tapping into their expertise is really important. So that was really one of the things that was very unique about this program.
Super. Lindsay, what do you think? Tell me about how international your cohort is and your experience with your cohort as a whole.
Yeah, so I actually took kind of a non-traditional bob and weave through the program and had the benefit of working with a few different cohorts. So yeah, definitely had classmates that were, from England, Africa, the Middle East, Canada. And, in addition to that, a lot of the professors and classmates, even if they were living domestically, had professional experience working internationally. And, the program says global right in the name. And we definitely, through the coursework, focus on that, and having folks with that international experience really helps bring it to life and give you the real world perspective as well.
Super. Eric?
Yeah, within my cohort, it's mostly U.S. based, but it's pretty broad across the U.S. We do have a couple international representatives as well within my classmates. Certainly, the professors have brought a very international perspective and experience. as well as some of my classmates having worked overseas, which has been, I've learned a lot from each of those different directions. I have an engineering background, an MBA, but I've been 20 years in the HVAC industry. So the energy field is new to me, but it's been very helpful sharing perspectives and hearing from some of those who've been in the field for longer than I have.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that kind of thing. I've got some other folks in my program who I can go to and say, hey, tell me all about aviation, right? But these guys just with their industry in it, and HVAC is another area where we have to just turn the whole thing upside down. And it's great, I think, to be able to ask questions from somebody who's a real expert inside that industry. Well, and congratulations to you, Lindsay. Well done for sticking with it, despite the fact the path was nonlinear. I'm going to assume that if you guys are like me, all three of you had some objection or hesitation to some difficulty about going back to school. What was for you three the biggest hang up?
Well, from my perspective, so I do have children, and trying to fit in 9 weeks of hydrogen and CCUS classes, that was a challenge. And I just really had to carve out the time and work through the material as I could during evening hours. So once the kids were in bed, so that was definitely families of family decisions and choices, and it was really an important part for me in my decision making, and why it really worked with the micro credentialing. And I needed to be upskilled really quickly in these topics, so it just worked with what I needed.
Super.
Yeah, similar for me. I've got 3 girls at home, and I was working a managerial role when I decided to enter the program. And my husband also has a big job too. So that for me was the biggest mental hurdle that I had to get over and feel confident that we could fit it in as a family and make it work.
Oh. Eric, do you have kids too?
Yeah, same here. 2 teenagers, full-time job. So it's it's a family commitment in some ways too. I mean, for me, I like that this program is sequential. It's one course at a time. But once you get started, and you're on the train. I mean, if one's done, the next one starts, and so it helps kind of keep you moving. But you got to get yourself in a good routine, and most of the majority, just hour-wise, the majority of the work is flexible. You can do it whenever you want, but you are coordinating for group members, group projects, different time zones in a lot of cases. And then we do a video live session once a week. I've got on the calendar most people make it, and if you can't, you can catch it recorded. But so it's for me, it was just really understanding the time commitment and how I'd work that in.
Well, that modularity and the fact that so much of it is either recorded or stuff you can do after kids go to bed, I think really opens up a lot of possibilities for a lot of people. Not that it doesn't have sacrifices, but it makes it more doable. So at the end of the day, you knew going in, this was going to be a hard commitment. Even if it's just for 9 weeks, it's 9 weeks when kids are eating pizza, maybe. But what was the motivation that got you over that hurdle, and what have you learned along the way to make it easier?
I would say for me, what got me over the hurdle was definitely that, as was mentioned earlier by I think almost everyone here, is that energy is changing so quickly, and so I had to, as the pipeline space is changing, is just to keep up, So understanding CO2, understanding hydrogen, that's really essential to my job. And so I needed to, I was very motivated to get up to speed as quickly as possible. And I guess the other thing is that because I had such great relationships with my professors, I still tap into them and their expertise. If I need to know about, a range of costs with SMRs or whatever it is, I can go right to the source and get really great information from our academic partners, but also some SMEs in the industry. So,
yeah, great connections.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, getting over the hurdle was really just having that family support. And I'll be honest, I went to the orientation day and panicked and like almost didn't go back for the rest, but my husband encouraged me and made sure I did it, and I'm certainly glad that I did. And in terms of, once you get over that hump and commit, what made it work? For me, it was just kind of settling into the pattern and the routine. Just like going to work, it's one more thing that's just part of your schedule. So scheduling it in, and then really, even though they're spread across the country and the globe, those cohort relationships that you build with your classmates are so strong, and being able to really lean into that and let them be part of your support system too is crucial.
Well said.
Yeah, I guess what kind of moved me in the direction was I think fair to say like mid-career. So I picked up some good experiences, really enjoyed my roles up till now, and really wanted to use those skills to impact. I love solving problems, and I think this is the biggest problem that's out there right now, problem and opportunity. It's just the work that will be required across everything basically over the next few decades. And I think it's an important challenge, one that I'll get a lot of satisfaction from helping solve. In the HVAC industry, more energy is used in your homes or any building toward HVAC than anything else. So it's part of the challenge. And whether I stay in this industry or go to a completely different area, I really looked at programs that would help me gain experience to be able to make that transition, and had good career resources as well. Although I'm not very active in it right now, because I'm not immediately planning for a change, but I will say that's one thing I've been pleasantly surprised on is the pretty deep content or opportunities within the kind of career services area, introducing different companies that are interested in bring people on from this experience.
Yeah, let's go down that line a little bit longer, Eric. First, Josie and Lindsay, have you seen your effort change the trajectory of your career? And then to the programs, talk to us about career services. But first, Josie.
Yeah, so I go back to that we're only now talking about how pipelines moving forward are going to transport CO2 and hydrogen. I mean, that is almost 100% of my work at this point. So that and safety. And so in my opinion, there's not an option for us not to be moving it for all of our pipeline workforce to be heading in the same direction. In fact, I'm at the point where I'm recommending to all my clients and people that I know to go ahead and start taking classes like these so that they can get up to speed on what carbon capture is, what they understand how to store it properly, what is hydrogen. We do a lot of work with the public and communities where we have pipelines. So educating our communities is a huge effort going forward. There's just a lot of components. And so everyone in our space really needs to be knowledgeable about it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, and Josie, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm coming at this from a reservoir engineering perspective, right? Looking at oil and gas production around the country. Mm-hmm. And I cannot foresee a scenario in which oil and gas production significantly increases. We may build a few incremental small pipelines, but I cannot imagine any significant new pipeline construction for crude oil and unprocessed natural gas. It's a great point.
Yeah.
Lindsay, what about your trajectory? Have you seen an effect?
Yeah, for sure. I entered the GEM program at a point in my career that I was feeling really stuck and kind of ready to do different and bigger things, but confidence was kind of in the tank for me just based on the work experience I was having. And it was ultimately the GEM program that kind of reignited my passions and helped me find my confidence again. And I actually, right before graduating, launched my own business and stepped out on my own. So it's been life-changing for me, for sure.
Congratulations. Excellent.
Good.
Very briefly, what's your business?
My business is Village Carbon, and I am helping bring more carbon offsets into the marketplace.
Excellent. We need more. Voluntary markets are going to change the world. I believe it. So talk to me about the career placement services that you've got. The couple you mentioned it, and the couple you didn't, but I know you have it. Talk to me about career placement services in your program.
So,
Yeah.
so here with our program specifically, just very briefly, almost all of the people who join the program are already in industry for the micro credentials. So we don't really use the university's career services for that group, but the university itself, yeah, we have very good career services programs. We have the university career services program. We also have individual career services operations within a number of the departments, including business and engineering. So yeah, there are very extensive career support, including support for internships and such like, as well as obviously for full-time jobs. So when people graduate.
And I would say to you, Denver Gem, we are fairly similar in that we have business career services as well as university services
right.
that we can leverage for our students, which is very useful for them. More on that kind of some of the tactical level pieces. As far as energy expertise, we kind of lean in on our executive in residence to kind of help build out some of that executive presence for them, as well as some contacts. And then we also lean pretty heavily into our alumni group to also encourage that that continuing to build the community, right? And so really kind of leaning into our alumni to help do that, because all of our students all are full-time working. And so that's why my stat was 55% after 6 months. So it's hard to measure, but extremely, just want to keep people connected as much as possible. They lean into myself as well as my industry advisory board as well for some of those internal job postings, things like that, how we can help amplify folks. So I still talk to folks, alumni from years and years ago who have made jumps and transitions, and we try to help do that. But that's kind of the way we manage our career services.
So I'll jump in a bit also. It's very similar. Everybody in our program is working, so they don't looking for jobs per se. But we have a couple of ways of doing it. We have an advisory board to kind of mentor some of the students to go forward. There's a critical role. We have an executive career coach, and one of our major role is essentially now the MBA program. How do you brand you? How do you leverage that? How do you brand yourself? How do you get prepared for interviews, and so on and so forth? Because a lot of them have sometimes you're stuck. How do you proceed from here onward? That's an important role to play. And though we don't provide career service per se, because many of these companies are sponsored, so it'll be very hard to kind of justify, okay, you're sending them to our program, and now you're advising how to quit this company. Doesn't quite
Yeah.
So, but we kind of walk the fine line, but we do give them career advice and how to move forward with the MBA program. Absolutely.
That's good.
Yeah, I sort of touched on our career services available, but since we do have students, excuse me, since we do have students ranging from just graduating their undergraduate to professionals, I don't know where this is coming from, so I apologize. But so we have services available for finding new jobs, for interviews, for resume tips. And you never know, in this economy, you may be looking for a new job soon. So we do have those services available. And also within the program itself, we really allow the students to explore their careers within the capstone project. Perhaps you are a contractor and you're working on a project with a client. You can use the capstone to develop this project. And I really loved seeing, as I mentioned, we have one cohort of alumni now. I loved seeing everything from implementing electric buses in Vietnam to the development of battery storage to communications, everything that may help you in your career.
Super. Now, it's none of these programs are none of you guys are leaving people out in the cold, giving them all sorts of support from networking, their own preparation, and for job connections. So I apologize, we're out of time. I have several other questions I'd love to ask, but I want to thank all the panelists and students for coming. All of those are great programs. I don't think the question for any potential student is which is the best program. The question is, what is going to suit your needs and your career trajectory the best? They're all offering a little different way to get ahead. Shamika, would you close us out?
Yes.
And so thank you so much, Dwayne, as our moderator and our panelists, and for all of you for being here today. We would like to, we're going to send out our recordings early next week, and it will only be available for 10 days. So please go ahead and take a listen if you need to do that. And I would also like to extend a special invitation for you to join us at CarbonExpo, March 3rd of this year, where we will be discussing practical next steps in the energy transition. Registered attendees of today's webinar will receive a discounted rate of $159, which the current rate is $229, and that's available for the next 10 days until January 23rd. The link to register using this special rate is actually going to be placed in the chat right now. Okay, you should find it there. And we will also provide that link as well in the recording email that will come out to you pretty soon. That code, just in case if you go through a regular registration for CarbonExpo, is GRAD EDU, all one word together. And please have a great weekend. We'll see you in March. In the meantime, we do have a quick exit survey once you exit out of the webinar, so please take the time to do that. It's only about 4 questions, and again, have a great weekend. We look to see you in March.
Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
the opportunity. Yeah. Have a good one.